Welcome back, folks, to the random video blog for July 17th, 2015, my favorite day of the year, which I'll get back to in just a minute. But here in the random video blog every single Friday, I give my rambling thoughts in the wrestling world, everything else going on in the world around me, right here in the video blog. So as I mentioned, July 17th, 2015, my favorite day of the year, if only because it celebrates the 4-year anniversary of my favorite match, my favorite pay-per-view of all time. Anyone who knows me well, I've talked about this here before on the video blog, a year ago today exactly, to be exact, CM Punk versus John Cena from the 2011 Money in the Bank pay-per-view in Chicago, Illinois for the WWE Championship. I love that match. I love that show so much. I'll be spending today watching that DVD, watching that pay-per-view. You can watch it for yourself on the WWE Network if you like. I'm an old school fan like that. I own the DVD. I own the DVD before the network anyway. But the point of this video is, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I do have other things I got to do today. It's a very busy, exciting day, very great time, an awesome time to be a wrestling fan right now. And I've talked about that here before in the video blog. But, I don't want to spend too much time on this topic. Just want to kind of briefly talk about it. It's a little bit broad. I'm not going to be talking about a specific topic or anything like that this week. Just something that I've echoing my thoughts that I've talked about on Twitter as of late, the last couple of weeks and whatnot, and how that kind of ties into July 17th. I thought if there was any day to film this video blog, it would be today, considering how that whole summer for me, and I've talked about this before, and probably by year's end, 2015 will beat out 2011 as my favorite year in wrestling since I became a fan in 2008. But 2011, to this point anyway, has been my favorite year in wrestling. It was not the greatest year. Greatest and favorite are two very different things. But that entire summer, me personally, I'm sure a lot of people can vouch for this and attest to this as well, that every single week I was excited to see what was next on Raw. From June to August, everything from when Punk dropped the pipe bomb, even the week before that when he announced that he was leaving the company, to SummerSlam and a little bit after that as well, there was must-see, can't-miss WWE programming going on. Also including the fact the whole great Randy Orton-Christian feud going over on the SmackDown brand. So many awesome things going on in WWE around that time, hence why, that whole summer, especially that pay-per-view that I'll be watching later on today, the 2011 Money in the Bank pay-per-view, was a huge reminder as to why I'm a wrestling fan. I've done video blogs here on the channel before in the past after going to that amazing Raw, one of the greatest Raws, if not the greatest Raw of 2014 last year, which I was very fortunate to be in attendance for, on July 30th in Hartford at the XL Center here in Connecticut. And I filmed one right after that event. I filmed one after going to the TNA show, the premiere show on Destination America, which was also probably the second best wrestling show I've ever been to. Just an amazing atmosphere live, like I can't even describe to you. And I think in both of those videos I lost my voice. And also the indie event that I went to back in November where I met AJ Styles and Kurt Angle and Bully Ray and a few others as well. I think after each of those 3 videos, I lost my voice. And those are probably 3 of the best wrestling shows I've ever been to in the 7 years I've been a wrestling fan. I've been very fortunate to go to all of those events. But yeah, a huge reminder as to why I'm a fan. And someone tweeted me this past week, which I thought was kind of fitting and timely and interesting as well. Coming out of this week's Raw, which I thought was very, very good, and a lot of people could say, could vouch for that it was the greatest episode of the year up to this date, up to this point so far in 2015, if not the greatest Raw of the year so far. And, some people, or one person in particular, like I mentioned, tweeted me saying, through all the bad stuff that has happened this year, and, not verbatim here, I'm just kind of paraphrasing what they were saying in the tweet. It was, after all the bad stuff that we've gotten recently or whatever, I think the product's been pretty good since WrestleMania. I digress, but, through all the bad times, it's episodes and moments like this, specifically after the Diva segment happened, that remind me why I love this stuff so much. And I could not agree more. I've talked about that in the video blogs. No matter how bad the product may be, it's not going to be the Attitude Era. It's not going to be this huge wrestling boom. Wrestling is undoubtedly not as popular as it once was during the late 90s or during the 80s, but you have to enjoy it for what it is and kind of pick apart what you like about the product. We can complain all we like. I complain, you complain, everyone complains about the bad shit that goes on in wrestling and whatever. That's human. That's human nature. But you also kind of have to take the time to appreciate what you do like. But this, I know, just doesn't really go along with what the title of this video is, why wrestling has the greatest fan base in the world. And, the reason I wanted to talk about this, it kind of goes back to my vacation from a couple weeks ago. And by the way, I didn't want to put WWE has the greatest fan base or TNA has the greatest fan base. We all argue about, which company has the best fan base. Oh, WWE is better than TNA. TNA is better than WWE. Fuck all you guys. Ring of Honor is better. Lucha Underground's better. I'm not going to say which one I find more enjoyable. I think that's kind of apparent from what I tweet about the most and whatever else. But I love wrestling. I love WWE. I love TNA despite their recent financial struggles in the last couple of years. I love TNA, hence why I wouldn't have gone to those two shows if I hated it so much. I wouldn't even watch it. Even the promotions that I don't watch, it's not because I hate them or I don't like them. It's just that I don't even have the time. I watch so much wrestling as it is. I try to digest as much as I can. I watch Raw. I watch SmackDown, Main Event, fucking Superstars, shows like that. I know it's kind of throwaway, but I watch them mostly to review them for my website. But, because I love wrestling so much in addition to NXT, Ring of Honor, Teen Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, and all these other great wrestling promotions going on right now. But going back to what I was saying before, when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago in New Hampshire, and that's where I filmed the video blog 2 weeks ago talking about never miss a WWE live event. I was on site on vacation when I filmed that, and then last week I talked about my experience meeting Mick Foley on vacation. But also from that same day that I met Mick Foley on that same day, I ran into pretty much that whole week, but specifically that day I ran into many of former fans, current fans, and stuff like that. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the way that I interact with people. I don't hate people. I'm not a social person all that much. I'll go to parties and stuff like that. I'm not a very party person anyway. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'm very intrigued by people. That's why I love doing interviews and human interest stories and stuff like that. I'm very big into. I don't hate people. I just hate dumb people. But when it comes to wrestling fans especially, I noticed that, I don't want to start a whole war, like wrestling fans are better than baseball fans or basketball fans. I don't really care about arguing about that. But wrestling to me has the greatest fan base in the world because after interacting with all these fans, I see how passionate we all are about this business that we love so much. Even through the bad times, we still continue to support it, put our money into this stuff, watch it, like it, love it, watch it every single week, you know what I mean? And that was definitely apparent that same day that I met Mick Foley. I ran into many fans. I was wearing my Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt as seen in that photo that I filmed with Mick Foley. And many of former fans came up to me and said, "Oh, I like your shirt." And I'm sure they used to be fans. They were like 20, 30 years old. And funnily enough, interestingly enough, or funny enough, I guess, however you say it, a lot of the people that complimented me on my Macho Man shirt that day were people that worked at the park. And these guys were maybe in their 20 or 30s or something. So, of course, they grew up in the era of Macho Man and Randy Savage. But what I found interesting, my biggest takeaway from that day, obviously from meeting one of the greatest of all time, Mick Foley, was talking to some kid while waiting in a line for a ride. And the same ride that I actually met Mick Foley in the line for, but I went back for a third time. That was the second time I went on that ride. I went back for a third time later on that day. And it was really funny. I'm going to move the mic closer. I don't know if the audio is too great, so I apologize if the audio for the first 8 minutes of this video has been pretty shitty. I apologize. But yeah, while waiting in line for that ride, the third time, a kid said, "Are you a Macho Man Randy Savage fan?" He's not my age. He's not older than me. I believe he might have been 10 or 11 years old. I couldn't really tell too much, but I believe he was around that age. He was a lot younger than me. And, in going to WWE events and stuff like that and seeing, years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, almost exactly, I had neighbors, my dad's neighbors were wrestling fans, and we would talk about NXT, and they would talk about, Jericho's a good guy now, and I hate to use the word mark, because I'm a fucking mark, of course, that's very well documented, but we're all marks if we love pro wrestling. But, they weren't very well informed, I guess is one word to use. They don't read dirt sheets. That doesn't make them any less of a fan than I am. They probably love it as much, if not more, than I do. But still, that's a lot because I love pro wrestling so much. But the point I'm trying to make is that these kind of fans, there's a lot of stereotyping. I think in wrestling sometimes with people like myself, and with it being a primary example, I've only been watching for 7 years. And to some people, not to a lot of people, some people just don't get it. A lot of people do, and they do understand it, especially in knowing how much I love and want to learn about this sport, about sports entertainment, pro wrestling, whatever. I think there's a big stereotype that the shorter that you've been watching, the less you know about the product, and I feel like that's so far from the truth. And also, if you've been watching longer, you love it more. I really don't base pro wrestling around that kind of thing. I kind of base it on how much you love it. That doesn't really depend on how much money you put into it or how much you watch it. It's something that can't be measured. But going back to the kid thing, he knew a lot. I was expecting when he complimented me on my Macho Man Randy Savage shirt, that was one indicator that he knew what he was talking about. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't even known who he was, other than him getting inducted in the Hall of Fame this year. But I asked him who his famous, or not famous, but who his favorite, rather, pro wrestler of all time was, and he said Shawn Michaels. And I was like, wow, this kid actually knows what he's talking about. Then he said CM Punk and Dolph Ziggler. And he reminded me a lot of my friend John, who I've talked about a lot here in the video blog before, at _John's Jargon on the Twitter. He's been on hashtag AskYouSam and WrestleRant Radio and whatnot. He reminded me a lot of him because of his favorites, because John's favorites are also along those lines as well. But, it was awesome. I think I was talking to that kid for about 10, 15 minutes. We were at the same house show back in February, oddly enough, and we were talking about Dolph Ziggler. It's not like he read the dirt sheets. I think he just kind of read it on Instagram or something like that, he said. And it was funny because I was having an intelligent wrestling conversation with someone that was like 10 years old. And going to past WWE shows, as I mentioned, I've run into kids who would go to these shows with their dads or their moms, their families or whatever, and they only watch Raw or they only watch SmackDown. They don't really know anything else other than that. They probably know it's fake or scripted, whatever, but they don't know anything else beyond that. And this kid was, very well informed, as much as I was, on a lot of the stuff that was going on. It was great. And I love conversations with fans. I just like conversating with wrestling fans. That's why I have so many fans in my podcast, on my wrestling show, wrestling radio show, WrestleRant Radio, and, just talking to people in public. Like, it was fun, and I'll probably talk about this in future editions of You Never Know Who Might Be a Wrestling Fan. But in going to Lake Compounds, which is a local theme park here in New England, I've seen people wear CM Punk shirts, John Cena shirts, and I will chase those people down just to say nice shirt. I'm a fucking mark like that. I'm a crazy person. That's how weird I am. But even, and I'll probably, like I said, I'll mention this in other video vlogs, but I'm working at the movies. I've seen people wear wrestling shirts, and we'll talk for a few minutes, for as long as we can before I have to send them into the movie theater after I get them their food or whatever. But it's awesome. I feel like wrestling fans are so passionate that you could talk for hours on end, and it never gets boring, the conversation that is. You could talk for hours about pro wrestling, and you will never run out of things to talk about. I'm not saying that's not the same for any other sport, but for pro wrestling, as I've mentioned, like, the fans are so passionate. And I think the bottom line is this, is that we argue a lot, on like Twitter and, on podcasts, Facebook and whatever about, you like this guy, I like this guy, we all like who we like, that's completely fine. Wrestling is so subjective in that matter, and that's the perfect part about pro wrestling, is that you can like whoever you want, and you're never wrong, you kind of, there's a character for everybody, even for someone that's not a fan, they might be attracted to one wrestler because of their over-the-top personality, or because they're a great wrestler, or their promo skills, or whatever. But, we can go back and forth and debate on certain things, but at the end of the day, we all love this stuff. I think that's something that gets overlooked, and I said this wouldn't be a long video blog, when it's almost 13 minutes long, so I apologize. But, at the end of the day, I feel like that's something that's overlooked more often than not, is that we all love this stuff so much. We all tune into Raw every single week. We can argue that it's great or that it's shit or whatever, but, when all is said and done, we all love this stuff. Maybe some more than others, but it doesn't even matter. We are all fans of pro wrestling at the end of the day. That's why I love pro wrestling fans. I love wrestling, but I think the fans more over than anything else. Excuse me, I had to get that out of there. I'm botching like Sin Cara today. But I think just that more over than anything else is so great. Maybe other people are different. Maybe it's just me. But just in talking to wrestling fans, because it's so freaking rare to find a fan nowadays, and some people don't want to show their fandom, which is fine. That's completely fine. There was a time for many years where I never wore, I didn't even own wrestling shirts because I didn't have any money, and my parents wouldn't buy me any. But, no knock on them. I wouldn't blame them. I'm just a kook like that. But, even in high school, I owned this t-shirt in like my final senior year, and I never once wore it to school. And I was thinking about it, but I never wanted to for whatever reason. Other fans would. I'd see some fans around school wearing their t-shirts, and I never would. I didn't wear shirts around my college campus for my freshman year. And you can ask RJ at RJ_Marceau on the Twitter, one of my good friends from college and also my co-host on WrestleRant Radio. I wear wrestling shirts all the time. I probably wear more wrestling shirts than I do regular shirts in public, around the house, to sleep, whatever, you know? I own so many of them, but I'm not afraid to show off my fandom. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with, being not embarrassed, but if you don't want to wear a wrestling shirt out to public, that's completely fine. No one's giving you shit for it. I'm certainly not. And that's totally fine, but I feel like, putting your fandom out there, not being embarrassed to show that you are a fan of what you love, whether it be wrestling or whatever, even if other people perceive it to be childish and whatever, fuck what they think. Who fucking cares? I stopped caring a long time ago what other people thought, and it's been the best thing ever, especially when it comes to wrestling. Who cares if people know that you like wrestling? And if they treat you any differently because of it, then fuck them. They don't deserve to be your friend anyway. They don't deserve to be acquainted with you or associated with you to begin with. And that's my personal opinion. But in wearing your wrestling shirts out to public and kind of representing your fandom for pro wrestling, you can connect with other fans like myself that would love to talk to people about the same sport. Because, I don't know if baseball fans, like I said, I can't really speak for baseball fans. I'm not a baseball fan, but a lot of my relatives are. My dad is, my stepdad is, not my mom isn't, but my brothers are and stuff like that. A lot of people I know are baseball fans. And I don't know if they take it for granted that a lot of people are baseball fans and they see another fan. And they would see another Mets fan or something like that and they won't, really think twice about it. I see another wrestling fan out there in public and I'm marking the fuck out like, oh, that's so cool. Someone's actually like ballsy enough to wear a wrestling shirt out to public. And I think it's the coolest fucking thing ever. So if you're one of the people that does that, that's great. And hopefully we can catch up down the road and I can bother you someday. I could chase you down in the parking lot of a Lake Compounds or some random ass theme park and we could talk about wrestling for 20 minutes because that's just the kind of person I am because I love wrestling fans. They're so passionate. I don't agree with what everyone says. Not everyone agrees with what I say, but I think that's the best part about wrestling. There's so much variety. There's something for everybody to like, and there's so much out there for people to digest. If you don't like WWE, there's TNA. If you don't like TNA, there's Ring of Honor and so on and so forth. There's so much to like, especially right now with wrestling being not as hot as it is, but as being exciting as it is, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's going to be the next wrestling boom or anything like that, like Jeff Jarrett said. I thought that was kind of bullshit, but I'm not saying there's going to be another boom in the wrestling business anytime soon, but just from an entertaining product standpoint, from all these different promotions that you can tune into, it's a great time to be a fan, and to be a fan in general, I think it's great. Like I said, I said briefly before, and this video ended up being 17 minutes, so I apologize for wasting 17 minutes of your life on this glorious day of July 17th. But, thank you. Thank you for all your support. I know I've said it a million times over, but thank you for your awesome support. I've got a lot of cool announcements coming today. If they're not up already, they should be on the Facebook page, which is down below in the links. But it's facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. You can find me on Twitter at WrestleRant and all my other social media links and wrestling websites and all the wrestling websites that I write for and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a great day, and I just wanted to spend this day talking about how great you guys are, how great the wrestling fan base is. I don't care if you watch WWE or you watch PWG or Shikara or TNA Impact, Lucha. I don't care if you only watch WWE Superstars. You'd be crazy enough to only watch that on the WWE Network. But I don't know. Maybe there's some people out there who do that. I have no idea, but I did want to take the time to talk about that a little bit briefly. I know I'm all over the map today. I'm just really excited about what's going on right now, what's going on in the future. Hashtag the future is now, people. The future is now. It's a great time to be a fan. It's a great time to be alive. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So as I mentioned, I apologize for being random, but that's exactly what this video blog is all about, baby. This is exactly what this video blog was designed for. That is why it's called, in the playlist, Random Video Blogs. I can ramble all I want and it would not be wrong to do because that's exactly what this video blog was designed for. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. Go out and watch Money in the Bank 2011 or Punk and Cena specifically from that show. You will not be disappointed. Maybe you will be, but hopefully you won't be. It's my favorite match of all time. As you can tell from my mark, just me being a fucking mark, wearing a Punk t-shirt today and my CM Punk hat and everything else going on right now. So anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well. Have an amazing weekend. I'm Graham Juice Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.